What's up, my nerds? I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a fire in your heart. And if you know that reference, you know that today we're talking about Fallout, a huge franchise by Bethesda. They've made several games, and now Amazon's got its own TV show, and we're going to be talking about it today with my buddy John Rappa, the head of JReel Media. But we're not going to get there yet. You know how this goes. Before we get into our interview, I want to spend some time sharing some nerdy recommendations. And it's been a long summer. I've missed you guys. It's been, 13 weeks now. I had 9 weeks of summer, which was awesome. And now I'm 4 weeks into the school year. And it's been a while. And so got some things I want to share with you guys that I've enjoyed over the summer. And that way you can enjoy them as well. So first, let's take a look at some nerdy recommendations on what I've watched over the summer. So there's a little bit of a through line here. There's kind of... Anyway, it's Aliens is basically what I watched this summer, a bunch of alien stuff. The first is a TV show on Apple TV, or Apple TV Plus, whatever it's called Invasion. I got this as a recommendation from Todd Turner, and he said you gotta check it out. It is a story about not nice aliens coming and wanting to be here on Earth and take Earth. And I really enjoyed it. It was really intense. There were a couple times that I think I kind of wanted to turn off because I didn't like how some of the characters were behaving. But it was really good. It was really good. I would say probably the biggest letdown for me on the show, which is also kind of a good thing, is that there are times where characters are removed and you think, oh, well, they'll be back in a couple episodes, and they're like gone. Like there's no characters that are safe. None are safe. And a little bit of spoiler alert, but I mean, it's only the first episode, is Sam Neill, who is like in the promo for the show, is only in like the first couple episodes. So that's kind of a bummer there. Kind of like if you watch Silo, it was similar there, where we had some characters on the first couple episodes, and you're like, oh man, I can't wait to see more. Oh no, they're gone forever. Cool. But no, it's a really good one. Apple TV Plus. Recommended to a couple others. It's Apple TV Plus, so there's going to be language in it, but I don't remember there being anything else. Maybe there was one episode where it got a little saucy, but it was not a common fixture in the show. But it is intense. This is not for young viewers. The second thing that I want to recommend is another alien show, Three Body Problem. And this one is on Netflix. It is based on, I think it's Cixin Li. It's an old book that a Chinese author wrote. And it was also really good. I was really glad I watched this right before school started so I could stay up until 4 a.m. to finish it because I couldn't get enough of it. The basic premise is that science isn't working anymore. Like the things that should work for science don't work. People are kind of going crazy. Gravity's not working the way it's supposed to, and scientific theories not working the way it's supposed to. And then they have this like interactive video game that everyone's kind of getting pulled into and trying to solve these problems, and it's just really good. It's really good. I really enjoyed the portrayal of the characters in this. Also, it's a Netflix show, so there's going to be some language in it. I don't remember there being a lot of other content in that one either, but I could be wrong on that. Definitely parents watch before your kids watch. But no, I really liked it so much so that I thought, man, I might pick up the book and listen to the book. I might listen to the book because the season ends at a really kind of exciting place where you go, what's coming next? Yeah, I would say that comparing these two, if you've seen Invasion and you're wondering about Three Body Problem, it is definitely much more science heavy in Three Body Problem. I would call this high sci-fi or technical sci-fi, where they're really diving into scientific theories in this one. And if you've seen Three Body Problem, you're like, am I going to like Invasion? It's much less of the science there, and there's a lot more of the relationships with the characters that are kind of, that's the heartbeat of that show. So definitely two different shows, both with aliens, but enjoyed it. Third recommendation, also aliens. This one is Resident Alien, which is definitely a different pace. This is Alan Tudyk. If you know Alan Tudyk, he's been on like every Pixar movie. He's got some kind of character in there somewhere, like all the recent ones. He was Hey. He was Duke Weselton, and he was Duke Weaselton on the oh my gosh, lost the name of the movie, the animal one. Doesn't matter. Zootopia. But he was also in Firefly. Basically anything Nathan Fillion's in, he's also going to be in. This is a more kind of dark comedy based on a DC comic where an alien crash lands on Earth, assumes the body of a doctor in a small town, and hijinks ensue. There's 4 seasons of this. Karen and I watched all 4 seasons. If you know my wife, she's not really big into aliens, and she enjoyed this one. It is something. It's a lot funnier, but there's a good heart that kind of runs through it, just like you typically see in Alan Tudyk stuff. Like he's a little more selective in those things. But it was good. Last one is Finch. I just watched this. It's with Tom Hanks, and just Tom Hanks. It's kind of like Castaway, but with robots and storms that will kill you. It is a story about an engineer who survived solar flares and is stuck on Earth, and he's trying to build robots and get to someplace safe. I'm just gonna kind of leave it there, let you enjoy the rest. Yes, it was. It was another good one. A shorter movie, kind of their independent movies, Apple's independent movies. Yeah, it was really good. It was a really heavy movie. I don't typically really like heavy movies, but this one was definitely worth the watch. So there's some recommendations, things to watch if you have nothing to watch. Reading, we got 3 reading recommendations. The first one, I just finished Helldivers 12. Helldivers 12, it's called Heroes, is this one. Helldivers is a book series that I've been listening to for a long time, for 12 books worth, and supposedly this is the last one. We'll see. But Helldivers is about a post-apocalyptic event where humanity has to retreat into the skies into blimps, and there are a group of highly trained individuals that are Helldivers that go to the surface to get repair parts or supplies or rescue people and bring them back up to the blimps. That's the kind of the premise of the first one, and it's been kind of a general idea throughout the rest. I really like post-apocalyptic stuff. I know I talk about that all the time, and that's what I lean towards listening to. I just really do enjoy when everything else is stripped away, seeing who people really are. And so that one was really good. Finished that one, Helldivers. That is read by R.C. Bray. Nicholas Sansbury Smith is the author on that one. And if you are interested in that kind of idea, the first one's really good. We also have an episode of the NextGen Nerd podcast where I talk with Rocky, my brother-in-law, about Helldivers. So if you're like, I want to hear more about that, roll back to that episode, check that out, and then you can start listening to all of them. And I would love to talk to you about all of them because it's been a fun ride. Second, comics-wise, I did Marvel Summer Event Blood Hunt, which just wrapped up a couple weeks ago, and it basically, somebody takes all the Marvel heroes and villains that tap into any kind of darkness force, like I'm thinking Cloak and Dagger, and exploits them so that the earth is completely enveloped in darkness, in night, and so then the vampires are able to come out and just wreak havoc. And it's about them trying to fight them off, and it was a really good one. I've not participated in a summer event like that before, so it was really neat. And enjoyed that. Funny enough, when I asked my comic store to pull those for me, they were pulling the wrong ones. They were pulling one of the side issues rather than the main storyline, so I missed issue 4. But I'll be okay. I've got 1, 2, 3, and 5, and then a whole bunch of. They didn't get me the Blood Hunt. They got me Blood Hunters, which is like an anthology kind of series, or it's following some side stories of people hunting vampires during the middle of this. So it was fun. I enjoyed those, and I don't regret getting those. But that was good. The big book that I read this summer, and I say big book because it was like 54 hours, something like that. It was a huge audiobook. If you don't listen to audiobooks, most audiobooks that I listen to are typically between 8 and 10 hours, 8 and 12 hours, and this was like 54 hours. I started at Father's Day weekend and just finished it like 2 weeks ago. So it was like into the school year. So it took me like 2 months listening to it, and I was like listening to it. Like, it wasn't like, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Like, I was really in. And it still took me forever. The book is Way of Kings by Brian Sanderson. Golly, I should have looked this up beforehand. That would have been a professional thing to do. Way of Kings, Brandon Sanderson. Yeah. And so it is a fantasy book where power and money and influence is kind of derived from these storms, and there are people who are able to use the power of those storms to their benefit, and there's this unending conflict going on between more of human-looking characters and some kind of more monster-looking characters, and there's honor and dishonor and betrayal and friendship and camaraderie and military tactics. It felt really good to listen to. It really did. Felt really good to listen to. There were several. It was one of those books that follows like 3 or 4 main characters and it kind of jumps back and forth between their story. And so there was one that felt kind of very similar to Gladiator or Spartacus or Ben-Hur, that kind of like, I was cheated and I will climb back through these ranks, so that was really kind of interesting following that. And there was another character that they followed who is like this, naive, simple, whatever princess, but she's not. Like, she's got this dark side to her as well, that she's warring with, doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing, and seeking to understand. That was really good. And then you had this noble who nobody trusts, because no one trusts any noble, because they're all good for nothings. And he's got this malady, this thorn in his side that he's dealing with. And it was a really good book, long book, beginning of a 5-book series. If you listen to Mistborn, same author, kind of same universe. I will jump into the second book and so on and so forth, just not yet. Like, I need to get a few more books under my belt. It took me a long time to get through this one, and my pacing for books read in 2024 is way off. But it's really good. Brandon Sanderson, and it's Way of Kings. It's set in the Cosmere universe, which, shout out to the TTRPG Rundown, one of LTN's podcasts. They did a one-shot set in this universe, because in addition to reading this book, the kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, if you're not familiar with tabletop role-playing games, but set in this universe, the Kickstarter is like just now wrapping up, and it's one of the most successful Kickstarters that's ever existed. There's a lot of money that's gone into this, and so the team at the TTRPG Rundown, they got their hands. They got to play play with the creators of the game. And they held a one-shot, and I got to play a one-shot with them. And so I'm going to go ahead and slip a clip in here of kind of some of the gameplay that we had, so you can enjoy that.
You've been muted? Oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, am I muted?
I said, Matt, if you click on the name of the ability, it'll give you more details. It should give you like the specific mechanics.
Oh, of course it does. Yeah, there it is. Thank you.
I got you.
I've never used a computer before. Isn't that weird? Played a role-playing game. Okay.
You're doing pretty good for first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Here it is. A deduction test against the cognitive defense of an enemy. You gain an advantage on this test if the target has already acted on this round, which he has not. On a success, you accurately predict the immediate intentions of that character. In addition to learning what they're likely to attempt, you and each of your allies within 20 feet gain an advantage on reactive strikes. Wow. I homebrewed the actual correct.
Yeah, exactly. So give us, go ahead and give a roll. And I think, does it give you a +4 from that?
+5, actually.
+5, okay.
Or that's what it says. So I got 17.
Awesome. You cleared the DC, so.
Great.
So you are given advantage, as well as knowing that he is intent on continuing to attack.
Yeah, and so if I had if my move was just into the forming wall of my allies, trying to protect Doral, then maybe some of them within 20 feet would also get advantage on reactive strikes.
Okay. So
great.
Let's see who has not gone.
I'm not gone yet. So
go for it.
Okay. So just so I can make sure I'm understanding here, Captain and the other spearmen are our opponents.
Yes.
And we have
Varda.
3 bridgemen plus the 4 of us plus our other scholar that are on the other side.
Yes.
That are allied against. Okay.
Yeah, everyone's kind of like, whoa.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hey,
Okay.
what's up?
Okay. So Tantor's going to I'm guessing Tantor also realizes what's happening here. There's the thrill that's going on, and so there's no talking to him. Perfect.
Well,
Got it.
let me say this. Like, you know that it's going to be very difficult. I would say if you want to roll some sort of persuasion, if you want to roll persuasion, whether intimidation or I think you have persuasion. Yeah, persuasion or intimidation. I will let you roll that.
Okay.
It will be as a. Well, yeah, just go ahead and roll it, and let's see what you got.
Okay. That works. Persuasion or intimidation. There's persuasion. That's what I wanted to roll.
Is this for the captain or for Varda?
For captain.
Okay.
And it's 7. It doesn't work, but I'm going to go ahead and he's going to try anyways. So, so Tanner is just furious. He goes, "There's already 9 dead bodies here. If the Casafeed wants to eat, there's 9 dead bodies that can eat. Why do we add another dead body to the stack? Why do we add another dead body to the stack? If it's going to hunt us, it's going to hunt us. If it wants to eat, it can eat. Come to your senses." And he doesn't. So I'm just guessing. I'm guessing with a 7, he doesn't. Yeah,
That's a great argument.
Yeah. So instead, when he realizes this, I'm going to use decisive command. Decisive command. I can spend 1 focus, choose an ally, and influence within 20 feet till the end of their next turn. Whenever they make a test, they can roll my command die along with their other dice. So it's another 1d4. It's kind of a whatever
Inspiration.
Yes, pretty much. And so I think that I'm going to shout to Lauren to watch for the other spearmen, just as his command, just looking at it, shouting to her, "Don't lose track of him. Keep your eyes on him. The rest of us are going to focus on Captain." And then I'm also trying to get the eyes of the bridgemen to also look. Like, I'm not giving them the same advantage, of course, because I'm one ally. But I'm trying to split the party to be able to kind of keep both threats kind of in hand. So that's my first action. So yeah, so that was us playing the Cosmere RPG, and you can find out more about that at the rundown with LTN TTRPG rundown, and see kind of what's going on there, or you can look at the Kickstarter. I'm fairly certain it'll be a successful launch, and so you'll be able to get all those things. So I've been playing that. Also been playing Fortnite because why not? It's easy to turn on, play 30 minutes, and then turn back off. And this season is back to Marvel's characters, and so just unlocked Dr. Doom, and working on, almost got the second Dr. Doom suit. Got Peelverine, which is Wolverine but as a banana, and so that's been fun, goofing off playing there. A nice little checkout game, was good. And the last thing I've been playing is Shredder's Revenge, which is Ninja Turtles. It's like the old arcade game, but it's been updated, so I kind of played that on occasion as well, just to kind of zone out. So yeah, that's what I've been playing, watching, reading, listening to. What about you? What are you enjoying right now? What nerdy interests do you have that you would like to share? What have you played recently? Leave a comment on the YouTube, or send me an email at cj@nextgennerd.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram at nextgen_nerd, and would love to hear about those things, so we can talk about that on the next episode. But for right now, I think it's time for us to jump into our interview. So let's get nerdy. What's up, my nerds? Welcome back. Like I said earlier at the top of the show, I have my buddy John Rappa here, and I enjoy being able to call him friend. He was a punk kid in our youth group that I had to keep on the rails for so long, and now he's a worship pastor and does 1,000 other things in North Florida. This is the topic we're talking about today is one that he and I have enjoyed talking about. It's one of my probably top fandoms. And before we start recording, he's like, I kind of enjoy this in secret. And I said, well, my 7 listeners are now going to know that you are a big Fallout fan. But before we get to Fallout, just a couple questions up at the top, just so they can get to know you better. Now, you've been on the show before. We talked about the Mandalorian and Star Wars, and so glad to have you back. Hang on, I've got a nerdling in the background. Yes, sir. It's in the brown bag on the island. There's half of it that's obviously been eaten, so a much smaller half, and then there's the half that's yours. All right.
Thank you, Dad.
You're welcome, bud. So first question I usually like asking is, what's something that is exciting or life-giving going on in your life right now? Something new, contemporary, current, that you'd go, man, I'm really enjoying this part of life right now.
Yeah. Well, going back, I think just to ministry. And, ministry has its ups and downs, if you're involved in vocational ministry, even just being a volunteer at ministry, like there's times where things are going great and there's times where things are going a little sour. But all that being said, and that's just anything in life. But just right now, I think we've really matured, at our congregation. Obviously, you've been a part of it and you've seen kind of like where we came from and, the direction of where we're heading. And I just think, the unity within our congregation is it feels like when I was brand new again, when I was at youth, and like I had no idea that, people in church could argue and
not in church, church, outside of church.
I was like, there's no way. I went to a conference actually once. I think I told you the story, but I went to a conference with our old worship pastor, and there was probably like 60 people in the room. And the lady up front was like, who's ever been hurt by a church before? Raise your hand. And everyone raises their hand. And I look around, I'm like, no way. And I looked at our worship pastor and I said, should I raise my hand? Like, I don't know. He's like, no, you're fine. You're fine. And so how oblivious I was at that moment. But no, so like, I've come from I wasn't raised in church. And so just being a part of like church, and getting involved later on in life, I was kind of blissful entering into the whole thing. And then you go through, what you go through in any place that you ever, either work out or are involved in, where you have people and there's conflict, and, sometimes it can be worse than other times. And I think we got into a really rough spot at one point, and just the bickering between some people was just untasteful. And eventually, I think it just took some time of healing, and it took some leadership, and it took hard conversations. But we're getting a lot of new guests, and I tend to ask them. I tend to do like a poll without them knowing. I'm just like, so like, what was your first impression when you walked in here?
Right.
And they're like, man, I just felt really loved, and like it just seems that like love is like the forefront of this congregation, and they have no idea where we came from. So it's just really good to hear that and to see that, and just praying that it just continues to go in that direction. But my forefront is like, regardless or not, if you're getting the programs that you want or whatever it is, as long as everyone in the congregation has this love attitude towards each other, you're in a good spot. And so I think we're just moving in that direction, and it's really good. So.
Yeah. I mean, with church, usually when you get to the place where we were at, what's happened is for a long time people have I don't use the word ignored, but they have suppressed the frustration or the anger or the disappointment for a long time, because this is church and I just got to get over it and move past it. And like in any relationship, if you suppress that, you can suppress it for a little while, but eventually you got to talk about it. Yeah. And it either is going to be discussed, or there's going to be an explosion. Or, I mean, in the case of internalizing stress, there could be a physical reaction to your body. But for us, it was this physical reaction where there was all this stuff that was going on, and then it was all pulled out, and now we got to deal with it. And so that was a tough couple of years. But usually, once you start talking about it and you get it out there and you understand each other better, just like in any good relationship, it gets better. It gets better. Agreed. And so that's awesome. I'm glad that is the direction that you guys are, the trajectory you guys are on. It's fantastic. You were talking about the ups and downs. We had this lady share one week recently. In her quiet time, she felt like the Lord said to draw a straight line, and so she drew a straight line. And she said that the Lord told her to draw her life in peaks and valleys, and she's like, ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And he said, your life may go up and down, but if I'm at the center, I'm always in the middle of it. I'm always there. I'm always steady.
Yeah, that's good.
And yes, ministry does have ups and downs. Usually when we take our eyes off, and even if our eyes are on Jesus, you look at the life of Joseph, and his life was full of ups and downs. And
that's good. That's a good correlation.
He's still pursuing Jesus, but it's still ups and downs. Or not Jesus. He was pursuing the Lord.
How do you handle the calling Jesus has put in your life, or where he's calling you to go?
Yes. Yes, we'll just ask Steve Pettit. Steve Pettit's got a good answer. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
He's like, just cry. Just cry about
it. Just cry. Your expectations were in the wrong place if you thought people were going to behave. That was your first. That was your first mistake, was thinking that they were going to behave, or that their behavior was going to determine your happiness. So,
yes.
So this is a nerd podcast, and we're going to talk about Fallout, which. It's really hard to avoid a nerdy discussion when you're talking about post-apocalyptic, campy 50s, aliens, mutants. It's really difficult. But besides Fallout, what are some other nerdy things that you're into? Some other nerdy interests that you have, John?
Okay, so I would just say, like, recently, and this is just because of the things I find interesting, but I've been like, my YouTube is flooded with like camera gear videos and like, just like looking at like tech, like new tech coming out, and just like lighting, and like it's just like, production stuff. I've always loved that stuff, and I've always kind of been in the music production kind of side, like just growing up, and and now I'm like starting to get into video production, and so like just. My YouTube is just constantly like I look at my screen time and like I gotta slow down, but like I'll just sit there for hours for like gear I can't afford. It's like a lens that costs $3,000. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna get it, but I'm gonna watch a 2-hour video about it, and
it's like a dream.
And I just love it. It's cool. Yeah.
Very nice. So with your YouTube algorithm, what's the weirdest thing that's come across your screen the last little bit? You're like, why did you suggest this?
Oh man, that's a good question. I would say off the top of my head. And maybe this is just because like I do like history and maybe it just knows me. I just keep on getting like Hitler videos, and I'm like, this doesn't look good. They're like, when people just walk by my screen and you just see Hitler, you just see like swastikas everywhere. I'm like, oh gosh.
So not what I thought you were going to say when you said history, but yes, historical figure. It's funny enough. You didn't go with us to Canada. You didn't go with us to Canada. We went on our mission trips there, did you?
I didn't.
We went to I think it was a Hindu temple while we were there. But one of the things that we were doing, because Mississauga, Toronto, where we were at, is one of the highest percentages of immigrants, in the world. We went to several different places of worship, and one of them was a Hindu temple, and they had swastikas everywhere. And I'm like, okay, all right. And I remember asking our missionary, like, what's the deal with the swastikas all over the place? And he said, well, the symbol Hitler chose on purpose, the symbol means harmony. The symbol means harmony. That's why he chose that symbol. And I'm like, yeah.
Very, very ironic. Very, very.
But that was. It was all propaganda, man. He was not a good man. He was a smart man, but not a good man. Yes. And I said, well, why do they still have them everywhere? And he hit me with the Jesus juke, and he said, well, should we no longer celebrate the rainbow? Should we no longer celebrate what God did? And I'm like, all right. I'm not putting a swastika anywhere anytime soon for harmony. Not going to do that, but I see what you're saying. Yeah. So camera stuff. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about JReel Media in a little bit. I don't know if it's your newest adventure, but it is definitely one of the newer ones. It is your newest? Yep. Cool. But let's step into Fallout. So we're talking about Fallout. For those that are uninitiated, the Fallout universe spans TV shows and video games, but for a long time it was just video games.
Awesome.
Yes, awesome. The idea is that at some point there was a war where nuclear bombs were set off. Now you're living in a post-apocalyptic Fallout wasteland, And you are usually in these games, you're the hero at the center of it. There's some problem that only you can solve.
Just like real life.
Just like real life. Just like real life. And that's why, as pastors, we really enjoy these games, because it all rests on us.
Oh my God, yes. That's what they teach you in seminary.
And so you have to, in most of these games, leave the safety and comfort of a vault shelter to go out into the wilderness to fix something. And so there are, let's see, there's Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Fallout 3, Brotherhood of Steel, Fallout Tactics, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, and Fallout 76. So there's currently 8 video games, and there's a mobile app game, Fallout Shelter, which is a lot of fun to play, and a whole bunch of board games, one of which recently was on a list of like top 10 sci-fi board games, and I was like, add to list. And it is also the version of Monopoly that I chose to purchase that was not like your standard Monopoly. Like, I gotta have one of these, and so I have.
But what's the difference? You know, is it just like different looking like props that you get, or
that's different? The property names are different. The money, instead of having the Monopoly face, it has caps on it, so you get like 5 caps or whatever.
That's cool.
But other than that, it's the same game. It's just a skin. It's just a skin on there. That's all it was. And so I love Fallout. I love the game, the idea of, and I'll get into it in a little bit, why it's so intriguing to me. But why do you love Fallout? Why do you love these games? Why? What attracts you to it? What's your history with the Fallout game series?
Well, man, I would tell you it's hard to pinpoint one reason why you'd like a game like Fallout. But dude, well, you've known this, you know, because I think I've always displayed, even when I was in youth group, I love the 1950s. Like, I love that style, love that type of music.
Is that why you wore a zoot suit every Wednesday for 6
dude,
months?
all the time, man, dude, all the time.
I was in 50s. I guess that was 20s. That was 20s, but close enough. Yeah.
Dress to impress, baby. Dress to impress. No, but like, I love that style. I love the, you know, like, I love the lore behind it. I love how like they it's really interesting because like, it's hard to explain this in like 10 seconds, but the idea of the story where it's like an alternative reality, you know, to where like the 1950s looks a little different. Like, they never invented the microchip, and there's like this whole other like timeline, like alternate universe. And so it's just like really cool how they implement like these 1950s themes and like to where it takes you in the game. It's just a really cool concept, man. I just feel like it's like it puts you into like an entirely different world. And I think like the biggest thing is the immersion that you feel. It's the same thing with like Skyrim. Like, if you play Skyrim, there's a lot of RPGs, but I don't think anything compares to Bethesda RPG.
Well,
like
Skyrim is a Bethesda RPG. That's why you're putting them in the
yeah. And so it's just like the amount of immersion that they put when they're developing these games. It just like, it sucks you right in. And it's one of those games where, you know, this, if you played it, you can be up until like 4 a.m, just sucked into it. And you're like, you feel like that's your real life. And then you get back into real world and you're like, I can't wait to go back to real life, which is like very unhealthy.
Listen,
but we do it, man.
I hear you. I'll come back to my origin with Fallout, but in the 4th Fallout game, it introduced, or in Fallout 4, not the 4th game, in Fallout 4, it introduced crafting and making things. And I remember that there were several things that, like, every time I was, you know, clearing out a building, there were things I was looking for, and light bulbs was one of them. Light bulbs has glass, which is hard to come by. It has wire, which is hard to come by. And I remember being in somebody's shed in real life and seeing light bulbs and thinking, I need to hang on to those because I'm going to need those later. And I had to laugh at myself like, you need to stop playing just for a little bit, just for a little bit.
It's like, all right, I need to put a healthy boundary in place of how, my screen time. Oh,
and honestly, I hate the crafting. I really do. It is my least favorite part of Fallout. I will get to that in a little bit. But
really,
but you got to do it. You got to do it. So I started playing Fallout and Fallout 2 when I was in high school. Somebody got a copy of Fallout 2, which
that was like in the 1970s when they first invented
it was forever ago. I'll say this: there was an install option where you could install it on a 3.5-inch floppy disk. Like, you could put that in and install it to the floppy disk. That's how old the game is.
That's crazy.
Yes. And so, but I remember we played that, and the things that I really loved about Fallout, I loved the gameplay mechanics. It was a lot like Baldur's Gate, if you've ever played Baldur's Gate, and we played that plenty growing up because it was Dungeons and Dragons as a video game. And so I started playing Fallout, but what really set it apart for me was the tongue-in-cheek humor that was throughout the game that I
Oh, yeah.
really enjoyed. I remember there were several like chance encounters. It just randomly generated it in the game in Fallout 2. But I remember thinking it was so cool when I came across in the middle of the desert a giant whale and a pot of petunias just dead there in the desert. And I remember just pointing it out to, the Neanderthal that is my brother, and the Neanderthal that is Matt West, and going, look at this. And they're like, I don't get it. It was a very small reference from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where they turned these two missiles into a whale and a potted petunia, and it was just there. And I remember thinking, this is hilarious. And I remember there's another encounter in Fallout 2 where you come to a bridge and there's a wizard, and you must answer his questions 3. And the first question is, what is your name? And the second question is, what is your favorite color? And then the third question was some random trivia question from Fallout. And so for those that don't know, that's from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And so they had these little jokes kind of all throughout, and I just loved that. I love the little treats there, which they carry over into the new games, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 76. There are these little cutesy jokes, tongue-in-cheek, and I just enjoy that. I enjoy kind of the dark humor of we're living in the last days of this world. Everyone is sick, but we're gonna have fun with it. We're gonna make jokes about it. So that was my Fallout, original Fallout experience. And I played Fallout 2. I've tried Fallout 1, and it's really difficult for me to like step back into that. And I played Brotherhood of Steel and Fallout Tactics, and those were okay.
Dude, man, you played them all, man.
I played a lot of them. I haven't beat all of them. But I would say, we'll get to, is that the next question? No, but we'll go to this. My favorite Fallout game is probably Fallout 3. That was the first person shooter one. You're in DC, and I played through that one so many times that I was making my own maps to know where magazines were and where
I'll
find them. But I was min-maxing the game without cheating. Like, I knew, like, okay, if I get this perk and I find this bobblehead, it'll increase my perception by 3, and so I can start with a perception of 7, and it'll get it up to here. Like, all that stuff. That's
your brain versus mine.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm just like, I'm gonna wing it.
Yes.
You know?
I loved Fallout 3. I love Fallout 3. That was probably my favorite one. And then Fallout 4 after that. I know what your favorite is, and we'll get into why it's not in my. It's not the top of my list.
On.
It's not the top of my list. I know yours, and I get it, and it is definitively. It's like when people say that Back to the Future 2 was their favorite. Like, I get why, but you do know that the first one is definitely better. So I know that I am in love with Back to the Future 2 of Fallout 3 and 4, and you are in love with the actual best game in the universe, New Vegas. Like, I know that's the case.
100%. Yes.
But we'll dive into that. So tell me your Fallout experience and your favorite as well.
Well, so that'll lead into my favorite. So, I was actually in 5th grade.
Okay.
And
Just a
I
child.
remember this night. Man, dude, I was just a child. I probably shouldn't have had the game, but I was at GameStop. I used to go to GameStop, the Oaks Mall. Back in the day, if you guys don't know what that is, it's a rinky-dinky mall, in the middle of North Central Florida. My favorite part of going there when I was a kid was GameStop, man.
There you go.
And I used to go there with
So
my
you were
friends all the
robbed
time.
of the Aladdin's Castle experience. That was my childhood. Rolled up.
I don't even know what that is.
It was a giant arcade that was in the mall, and Matt's older brother worked there, and we would get free tokens. Like, it was.
So
awesome.
that was at the Oaks Mall.
Yes.
Were you there when they had the movie theater?
It was right across from the movie theater. So you'd go see a movie, and then you'd come and play video games after.
I had no idea
That was in
that
malls
there was
or
a movie
malls.
theater there.
Yes.
That was crazy. Like, I found out whenever I was working at the police department for a while, and we would do they would do active shooter training, and they had like taken us to a route. They're like, okay, like if an active shooter gets on campus in the mall, here are the fastest ways to get to like one store or the other.
I got you.
So like there's this whole like secret, quote unquote secret, like passageway that you can take in the mall that takes you to these different locations that I didn't know about. But that's because like there used to be a movie theater in there, but all that now is covered.
Yep.
But you were able to go back there and so anyways, I found
cool.
out that there was a movie. So yeah. But going back
yeah,
to
GameStop. You're
so I was
5
like,
years old playing an adult video game. I'm kidding.
yeah, so it's funny, man. I think I had seen a commercial about it where it was like, your decision, changes the outcome of the game, and I was like, that's the coolest concept, because I'd never heard of a game like that before. And so me and my buddy are looking around. We used to just look around like at all the games. I feel like buying video games back then was so much way funner than it is now. And you go on the Steam store, like Xbox store, and it's just it's dull. But I remember you just going there, you just find a random game. You're like, I'm gonna get this one, and we're gonna see how it is. And we found Fallout, and it was rated M. So whenever you're a kid, you have to try to justify to your parents why you should have this rated M game. And so like I was trying to convince my mom that it's not bad at all. My dad wasn't there, so thank God, because I probably wouldn't have gotten it. I just manipulated my mom to say it was okay. I'm old enough to play it. There's nothing bad about the game.
It's a video game.
It's just like Call of Duty. It's like Call of Duty. Like I was playing Call of Duty. It's the same thing. And so I ended up getting it, and we took it home that night. And I remember we got home probably at 7, 8 p.m. And me and my buddy hooked up the Xbox 360. We were there until like 3, 4 in the morning playing the game. And it was just like the most immersive game that I had ever played in my life. And like I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Like I had no idea like what the game was about. I had no idea but I was like, this is the coolest concept ever. Like the idea that the world's nuked and now you're living in this like new reality. And so I think because it was my first Fallout game, just like goes to show you why it's like my favorite. I just have like that nostalgic feeling about it. I didn't play Fallout 3 until much later on. But that being said, like I did play the other Fallout. Like I played Fallout 3 and then I ended up playing the other Fallouts. But with Fallout New Vegas, it was one of those where there are certain features or certain parts of the game that aren't in any of the other ones. And I think that's just because it was created by a different studio. And so you've got like the I'm not sure if the perk system, and I'm trying to think back to Fallout 3, but the perk system and like how you level up is a little different than the other games. And then you have like the karma to where like your reputation affects like what people think about you. Like when you enter into a town, like if you murder everyone in the town, now you can't go back to that town because they remember you as that guy that like destroyed everything. And so I just felt like the decisions you made like carried a little more weight than the other games. And so like it was just a little like more immersion when you're playing the game. And it's just like it's Western too, which is really cool. I mean, I know like Fallout 1 and 2 are as well. But like since then, all the other Fallout games are East Coast games. And then you go out into like I love Westerns, and so you go to Fallout New Vegas and you're out there like it's got like this Western vibe to it.
Right.
But it's also futuristic, and it was super cool, like super unique.
Yeah, so Fallout New Vegas is one of the, I think, only 2 games that you don't start in a vault.
That's another point.
So Fallout 2 is the only other one that you don't start out in a vault. You're in a village that was saved and founded by a vault dweller. Mm-hmm. So that's a big difference there. The different clans, there were in the other games, there were decisions you could make that would close off parts of the storyline. So where your decision did matter, but it wasn't as dynamic where they had these different the faction system where there was the different factions that you had to. You could not do your best to have everybody like you. There wasn't a way to do that like there was in the other games. So those were definitely different. And it was a different game. It really was a different style game. And the reason why it's not at the top for me is because I was probably 85% done with the game, and my save file got corrupted, and so I had to start over. So
that's the worst because you're getting so close.
So I'm so mad. I have never finished it. You've never finished
Fallout New Vegas?
No. Is that insane at the end? So spoiler alert. Was this the one where the computer was running everything?
Mr. House, yes.
So I did finish it. I went in with guns and blew everything up, and I was like, "Ha, done, finished." But like, I didn't have a a satisfying end to that story. And
Yes.
so I started playing it again. I'm not very far into it. I play it when I have nothing else really that I'm wanting to play, because it was free on Steam or free on Amazon. Oh, it was Amazon Games, because when the TV show was coming out, they had all the games for free that you could get through.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, through Prime Gaming. If you don't know about Prime Gaming, guys, check it out. If you have Amazon Prime, you can get free games all the time. And
You
so,
told me about that, and I completely forgot until now.
Yep,
So
I have all the Biohazard games were free at one point. All the Fallout games are free at one point. All the Baldur's Gate, well, not the newest Baldur's Gate, the old 2 Baldur's Gate games. Anyways, but no, it is a different game. And I mentioned the humor was one of the things that was really different than other first-person shooters.
Oh yeah.
There was this very rich storyline, and it's not completely unique, but it definitely set it apart from Halo. You got Halo, where that was there was an immersive storyline, but it was hard to grasp because it was so otherworldly. And here we are on this planet, and so we see the things that was one of the things that I thought was so cool was with Fallout 3 was being able to go to places I had been. Was so neat to me.
Obviously in DC, yeah.
It was so neat to be able to go to places that I had been. And I thought that was really cool. But the tongue-in-cheek humor of it, even some of the guns and the way that they work, and like the junk gun, like you pick up just garbage all over the wasteland and you can shoot it at people. It's fun.
Yeah,
and
that would work.
There are all these other games that also do that, but that was some of the things that they kind of brought together in that, and it became a very popular game to the point where Amazon developed a TV show, which was fantastic, and I'm looking forward to season 2.
So good.
So good.
And listen, at the end of the series, I'm not going to say anything, but it just leads, it paves the way into, if you are a fan of Fallout, you're like, no way that
if
just
you're
happened.
I don't know, a fan of John's favorite Fallout game, there may be a vista that leads you to believe that it may be the location. So Fallout. I love Fallout. I love playing Fallout. We talked about our favorite Fallout game. Let's talk about the other side of the coin, some of our least favorite parts of the game. So do you mean give you a minute to think while I share my least favorite, or do you go for it, man? What are some of your least favorite parts of the game, man?
So I would say the graphics have not aged well.
They're dated. They're dated.
When I was younger, it was like, man, this game's phenomenal. Look at the graphics. Now I play it and I have to prepare my mind before playing it, but it takes, because the thing is, like, I want this to feel so immersive, and then you get to the point where you get used to these amazing graphics now, and then you play this game and it's like, okay, well, now I don't feel as immersive as I used to feel when I used to play this game. So that being said, that leads me to my next point of why I don't there's just some cons about the game, but it's so hold on, I just lost my thought. So definitely the graphics. Oh, the graphics leading into the mods. Without mods, the game, like once you play Fallout with mods, you can never play the game again without them. In my opinion, that's just my opinion.
It definitely. So I've not used. I mean, I guess it technically is a mod. I've used trainers where you adjust your character, and so like you can just max out all their stats. And that does. That definitely does take some of the skill and challenge out of it.
It does. I try not to use mods like that, but I will, like, if you see my list of mods for most of my computer space right now is for Fallout mods. Like, it's crazy.
Well, I'll say this: a positive to the graphics being as low as they are is you could even play it on a Mac, man. You could play it on a Mac and
2 FPS.
So, but like you could play it on just about anything. I mean, the computer I run most of my stuff on is not a powerful computer, but it can play all the Fallout games. It can play all of them well, and so it's like, well, I can play. I can run around and do stuff. I mentioned before, one of my least favorite parts was the crafting, was having to gather things.
Oh, right.
And mod weapons, and your
Sims
weapon
4.
breaks down, and I mean, I know that's realistic, but that's one of the things that I really didn't like about 4 was I had to collect junk. Like, I couldn't just keep going. But that was probably part for the realism. And then the other is Fallout 76. The reason why I've not really been able to get into Fallout 76 is Fallout 76 doesn't really have a story. It's made for you to go around with friends. And I did play recently with our with my D&D crew, and we had a really good time. Like, I had a good time playing in the way it was intended. But so often when I'm playing video games, I just want to be by myself and I want to wander around and explore. And Fallout 76.
Make it your story.
Yes. So there were those, and then the original Fallout games. They're really hard. They're really difficult. They are not as forgiving as Fallout.
I've never played the first one.
They're just not forgiving. I remember playing Fallout 2 recently, and I forgot to save, and I went way too far and died and lost like 2 hours of progress. And I was like, I hate this. This is why I hate this game, because I had lost my progress. But that's less, I guess, the game and more me. But it's not a perfect game. It's really glitchy. There's a lot of bugs. As with any Bethesda game, you're going to have bugs. If you're going to have...
That's why the mods come into handy. Yeah.
It fixes the bugs.
We fix it.
There you go. Don't worry, Bethesda. We got you.
Yeah.
But even still, I'll still play those games with the bugs, with the errors, with the deleted save files. I'll still play these games because I love them. What else? Any other least favorite parts of the games for you?
I think that pretty much sums most of it up. Obviously, I think with like Fallout 4, Fallout 4 started a new kind of trend of where the game was going, and I didn't really like the voice dialogue that your character has, because it feels like now it's not you, it's this new guy, and so it started to feel like these other RPG games that people make. I like the idea of Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, where you just read the prompt.
Yeah.
You select the prompt, and but dude, I don't know if you've seen this mod, but the AI voice mod is insane, dude. Like, if you've seen, there's so they've taken some of these NPCs and have used AI to recreate their personalities.
Okay.
And you can have like an entirely new storyline within the game because AI is creating the new storyline, which is insane. Like, there's this YouTube channel that I watch, especially when you have it on VR and you do that mod. It's insane. And then you're talking to them with a microphone. You're like talking to the NPCs. So it really makes the game like completely like immersive, which is kind of scary, but like really cool to see. In the future, this is probably how Bethesda games are going to go.
There you go. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
So let's change gears a little bit. Instead of the love, well, I guess it's still love, but it's instead of the enjoyment of the game. I mentioned that this genre of post-apocalyptic, and if you've listened to the show at all, you've heard me probably talk about this. One of the reasons why I like post-apocalyptic stuff, games, movies, comics, whatever else, is because it explores the question of how will people act when there's no rules governing their social interaction. And The Walking Dead, Fallout, I'm reading Geiger now and Rook, which are two comic books that are set in that. When there's nobody in charge, when there's nobody making sure you behave, who you are bubbles to the surface. It bubbles to the surface. And so with these games, that's kind of what's happened, is in New Vegas. That's where crime lords build up because there's no...
You just said you thought y'all were in your 40s.
No, Mr. John is not in his 40s, and I'm not yet. not for another 6 months. Thank you very much. 6 months.
Yeah, it feels like it.
But there's no one that's governing the social interaction, and so what you see is the wasteland. What should kill you actually doesn't kill you. It's the people that have decided. Oh, Mad Max, there's another one that have decided to take it on themselves, and so it's no longer the nuclear wasteland that's the villain. It's the fact that these people are who they really are at the center. No one's forcing them to behave who they really are at the center. And so I've always found that fascinating. What are your thoughts on that idea, especially coming at it from a ministry perspective and our understanding of the depravity of mankind, original sin, and all those things? People being the bad guy in these things, go.
Oh, man. Well, I wasn't even prepared for this, but now thinking about it, it's something that's been on my mind and my studies lately is the condition of the human heart. And so I've just been listening to like what the condition of the human heart is, and I've been, highlighting and going through these passages But the idea that, the scripture says that the heart is deceitful above all things, like above everything, And so I heard it said by somebody that I was watching on YouTube. You could correlate that like more like if deceitful above all things, above even Satan himself. And so how deceitful our human heart is to lead us away from Christ and just to lead us away from the truth. And oftentimes it's one of those where we get like really insecure, and so we like in a situation like that to where you've lost all leadership, you've lost your inability to live within a system, and now you feel like now I've got to take on the role of God, and I've got to handle things myself, which is really just like a lie. Like we put ourselves back into God's shoes and we think that we're God, and now we're forming our own idea of how the world should work. And then you have these factions that happen like in these games where you have you've got like evil people thinking like this is how you're supposed to save the world, and then you've got this group that looks like they're good, like the NCR, like, oh, this is how we should save the world, and everyone's taking it upon themselves, and it just reflects back to humanity, to like what state we live in now when we put our trust in kingdoms, when we put our trust in people and groups and even like church establishments, and we're like, oh well, if we just trust in these organizations, these leaders, then the world would be saved, which is the biggest lie, and that's what our heart leads us to. And so I just think whenever you even when you have a more chaotic situation, the reflection of your heart is just amplified. And obviously, like, can God work through that? I think one, I know God's got a pure heart, so when we look towards God and we follow His heart, when we're a man after God's own heart, and we're leaders after God's own heart, then society will start to look more like the way that God wants it to look. The issue is we tend to not listen to God's heart. We tend to not follow God's heart. We tend to follow our own hearts, or we follow the hearts of other people. And when we do that, this is the result of mankind. And so we see that in these games. We see that in these movies, and we're actually shocked all the time. And it's like, how are we shocked? This is exactly how the world would look.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned factions, the different factions thinking they're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Even if the right reasons are definitely the wrong reasons. The most believable villain is one that you understand and empathize. That they don't see themselves as a villain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are the empathetic villains. And looking at New Vegas specifically, we'll start with New Vegas. There's a whole section of the storyline where it deals with slavery. With
the Legion.
Yeah, so that humans are that some humans are less than others, and so on and so forth, and they need to be trampled underfoot. And that's just a terrible way for us to live, and yet that is how the human heart is bent. That's how the human heart is bent. That even if you attempt and strive to think in a pure manner, there are plenty, or at least for me, even in my best attempts where I am trying to lower myself and elevate Christ, there are still moments where I go, golly, I am definitely better than them. In those moments. And so I can only imagine if I was in a world where it felt like there was no God, in a world where it felt like there is no one that'll hold me accountable, and that I would be safer and rewarded for this behavior. Golly, what would it look like? What would it look like?
Yeah.
And it kind of is. I mean, it is in this game. There's opportunities you have to be deceitful. There's opportunities you have to be greedy, to be gluttonous, all these other things, and you're kind of rewarded for those. That is a microcosm, a little picture of what our world looks like now. So,
Yeah.
So how do we how do we redeem this game when someone says you play Fallout and we just went over all these things? How do we redeem it, man? How do we go, okay, I try to keep my karma at like where it's the little picture of Jesus. In this game, when you have your karma all the way maxed out, it's this little pit boy that looks like Jesus. He's like walking around, action boy, he looks like Jesus. Like that's what I tried to get to. Like, let me get here. And even still, that's not accurate. That's not, but how do we redeem this? How do we redeem this idea, this world of apocalyptic literature, apocalyptic stories, post-apocalyptic? How do we redeem that, man?
Well, I think it comes back to like it helping us understand what we just talked about. Like when you play a game like this, it leads you to that conclusion of, oh my gosh, humanity actually is wicked. And I think of even and this is kind of a different show and a different series. It's not post-apocalyptic, but you got The Boys. I don't know if you've ever seen The Boys. It's definitely not the most Christian show, probably
not even close.
The worst.
Yeah,
not even close. But what makes it so interesting, and I think what makes it so interesting is that that's what like the world would look like if there were actually superheroes. Like the corruption would be insane, like, and the government would have their hands in it, and there'd be secrets. And
not the American government. Not the American government.
Oh,
maybe
definitely not.
Yes.
But that's another thing with Vault-Tec. You see that.
Yep.
And so it shows you that there's no hope whenever you put people in charge, or whenever people try to save the world. Like when you got superheroes. Oh, this is the savior. These are the saviors of mankind. And then you see what like the reality is, or you see Vault-Tec. We're going to save the entire world, and you see what the reality is. And and I remember in apologetics we talked about this. How do you look at these movies that are unchristian, quote unquote, and how do you justify your viewership of it, or just giving a thought or entertaining it? And that was one of the things my professor correlated, was just, does this, like when you watch this, does this demonstrate the reality of Christ being the savior of humanity? Or what does it look like whenever God's not involved? Or what does it look like when your morals and principles aren't aligned with God's heart? This is the result. And so when you watch a movie like that, for instance, like you got like these, I love mafia movies and I love crime movies, but at the end of every crime movie, everyone goes to prison and they end up dead.
Yeah.
So whenever you watch that movie, like, yeah, there's a lot of cussing, there's murdering, there's all sorts of terrible things. And, like it's funny because it draws you in and it feels tempting to want to enter into a lifestyle like that. And then at the end of the movie, you see, wow, that really wasn't worth it. And so I think it's just a good reminder, like when you're playing these games, okay, like it's tempting to want to be in this lifestyle. And then when you see the result of what it actually looks like, it's like, wow, I really don't want to be in that position. Thank God I have Christ that saved me and is restoring humanity. We don't have to live in a world after the world gets blown up by nuclear bombs, which could happen. We get to live in God's kingdom.
Recording right now. Sure. I love kids. No, I think it's a good word. There is justice at the end of it. And I don't remember much of the storyline of the Fallout or Brotherhood of Steel or Fallout Tactics, but in the other ones, you're supposed to be the good guy. You're supposed to go out and help people. So there's that. Well, let's take a little bit of the weight off. Let's talk about let's look forward to Fallout future. What places, settings, or spins would you want to see in the next Fallout games? Like where is it?
Well, one, I do want there to be another one in California. I would love for there to be like another, modern Fallout game in California, and just because. You see the storyline with the NCR in Fallout New Vegas, and I really got invested in that, but you'll never see that in any of the other Fallout games. So just like introducing that and just being a part of that, I think that would be really cool. And there's been like attempts where there have been mods where they've recreated some of these storylines, or they make their own storylines, but I would love for something to be within the Fallout lore to go out to California. I think that'd be cool. Obviously, I'm a Floridian, so it'd be really cool.
It would be
walking around in places I've been to Florida. Yeah,
that would be fun. I thought Florida too. Somewhere on the beach. You probably would have to do like Miami area to be able to have enough to explore, enough infrastructure
or Disney
to
World.
explore.
Could you imagine the DLC?
Okay. Ding! Yes, that would be so fun. That would be it. So yeah, so those Florida would be good. New York City, I think, would be a good place to do one. It's very similar to DC, as far as the feel of that. But I think that would be a fun one. But two, I think going somewhere besides the United States. Seeing what it looks like would also be good. But the game developers are saying no. The game developers are saying they're going back to California. So you'll get your wish.
America's greater, so obviously. Yeah.
Or maybe they like, man. But if we went somewhere else, like the whole point of this game is that really the U.S. is the only one that's destroyed. Everywhere else is fine. Like it's just the U.S. And so it would be nearly as much fun.
Mexico would be a cool place.
Yes. All right. So what spins? So those are different locations, settings, whatever. What spins? Like what adjustments would we want to see made to these games?
Like what changes would we want?
Yeah, I think having a multiplayer version of an actual story game would be fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say like not making an MMO. It's just tough because like how do you make a game to where the world is revolved around your actions and then someone else gets involved in the game? You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Well, and the thing would be like I think a cool idea would be like if when they join your game, they're joining your reality, and now you have to play a part of their reality.
I got you. Yeah,
that might be cool.
I think vehicles. I think we need some vehicles.
Oh my gosh, yes. And there's vehicles in the lore, so it's like why don't they just add it? It's not that difficult.
In Fallout 2, eventually, when you collect enough components, you can rebuild this vehicle, this highway machine or whatever, and it takes you quicker between places. So it's like it takes place like fast travel. But a vertibird, I want to get behind a vertibird, man. I want to fly a vertibird somewhere.
So cool.
So I think vehicles would be good. Yes, and I think being able to, I think they may be introducing this in the next one, being able to play as something besides human. Being able to play as a super mutant, being able to play as a ghoul. Yeah, that'd be cool. Customizing a robot, that'd be fun. Building a custom robot.
They had that in Fallout 4 as a DLC.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, I didn't put the DLC.
Cool. Yeah, I would say I really want to see AI take over this game. I think it would be sick, man. Like a well thought out AI. Dude, could you imagine? You'd be sucked in there.
Listen, I already am. So I have Fallout 4 reinstalled, ready to do a new campaign on there. I'm just finishing up Lego Star Wars right now. Once I'm done with Lego Star Wars,
hey, that's an idea. Lego Fallout.
Lego Fallout would be a lot of fun.
That'd be
a lot of fun. That would be good. Okay. All right, well, let's do some this or that. Let's put ourselves in Fallout. We're in Fallout now. And so what is your go-to loadout if you're in the Wasteland? Now, this can be in the video game, this is what I used, or like this is what I'd want to be. But what is your go-to loadout in Fallout?
Okay, so I'm going to grab a Fat Boy.
Okay.
Just so that way if I need to blow up a city, I got it. So I have to have my Fat Boy. Man, like I wasn't always, I feel like I wasn't like particular in like what weapons.
For those that aren't familiar, a Fat Boy was a mini nuke launcher. It launched a little tiny nuke that went blew just for anybody who's like, for some reason they're listening to a Fallout podcast and they've never played Fallout, that they know what they're talking about. So
hey, we're gonna make them.
There you go. There is one on my Christmas list.
Yeah. Oh, is there? Which one?
It's a mini nuke. It's a mini nuke that opens up in its little storage compartment.
Oh no way! I love it.
I want it as a cookie jar. I really want a cookie jar in the shape of a mini nuke. That's what I want. That's good. So sorry, Fat Boy. What else did you say? I interrupted you there.
I would load out with as many stim packs as possible.
Yes.
Those are like the best. That's gold. That is gold in this game. Stim packs, Radaway. I wasn't like particular, like I was saying, like with the weapons. I think it was just cool just picking up a new one and just figuring it out and seeing a new one. I wasn't like, I have to have this one. But that, and then like even with the armor, like I feel like because this is just my life. I'm an aesthetic person, not a practical person. And so I was like, whatever looks the coolest is what I want. I don't care how much armor it like gives me. I think one of the coolest armors in Fallout was the recon armor from the NCR.
Yeah. No, I like that. In real life, I'm going to want to use something that has reusable ammo. You know, like doing like a compound bow or a crossbow, just because if I'm having to like scrounge for ammunition, it's going to be
Much more practical than me.
Yes.
Obviously. Yeah.
But in game, my favorite weapon that I used on a very regular basis was Lincoln's repeater. It was a cowboy action rifle, so the little drop.
Oh, dude, just like Christmas Story.
Yes, and I used that. I would use that until its condition was like near destroyed, and then I would collect a bunch of other repeaters and repair it. But I use that a lot. I'm definitely wanting to stay back. I'm definitely wanting to stay away. I want to be far distance away. I'm not gonna have a what were they called? The sledgehammers that were all like pneumatic powered or whatever.
Oh, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I would never use any of those melee weapons.
No, the chainsaw machete, not my thing either. Golly, I can't imagine stabbing somebody, you know, let alone like a chainsaw and like just like but
oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Can't do that. But I would definitely be. I need to be further back, further away, safer off.
Got a sniper.
Yes. Modified hunting rifle, anything to be further away, and like that would probably be my load. But yes, stim packs. You swap out currency for stim packs the entire time. That's all I want. This is as many stim packs as I need. And then if I'm playing Fallout 4, you have to have water and food because you'll get tired and you'll need to do those things. But whatever, who needs water? As far as armor goes, I want power armor. I just want power armor. I know it isn't practical. I want power armor. I want to be.
It was cool in the show. It was cool how they
was,
implemented it.
which was practical effects. Practical effects. They wanted to make a practical effect suit of armor, and they were like, "We think this is a terrible idea." They're like, "Well, let's just try it," and it worked out well.
That's awesome.
So that's my loadout. That's my loadout. Question number 2: what would your 2 companions look like? So we're going to have to take our 2. We're gonna have to take 2 companions. That was typically the limit in the games was 2.
Yep.
And
that's why I got mods and had like 18 people following me.
Well, there you go. But no mods. What 2 are you taking? What 2 are you taking?
Oh man, one of my favorite companions in Fallout New Vegas was Rex, which was the guy that was trying to be Elvis.
Okay. I wasn't thinking him. I thought it was the sniper guy, the green beret, the red beret guy. That
was Boone.
Yes.
And that was I was gonna say Boone and Rex would be my 2 favorite people to take along with me. Yeah, you got to have a sniper with you. He was a recon, so like he was like your guy. And then I'm a big dog guy. You know that in life. We're different people in life. And I love dogs, and what's cooler than a half robot dog?
There you go.
You know?
There you go.
And so I think Rex, and if you don't remember, in the game there's this faction called the Kings, and there's this guy that they're like a bunch of greasers, and they've discovered Elvis's music, and they think that he was like an actual legitimate king back in the day, and so they're like trying to restore that order of being like the kings of rock and roll, which is like they think that he was like an actual legitimate royal king. And it's just super funny. It's super funny. He was. And then he's got the leader of the faction has this dog named Rex, and he's a half robot, half German Shepherd. And he was just like a really cool companion to have. So having those 2 would be my choice. How about you?
So funny enough, in every game I've played, if there's an option for an animal companion, I want the animal companion. Always. Really, always.
So you're deep down in there, you're an animal guy.
And I tell people the reason is in the game the animal listens. The animal does what you ask it to do. Like it just does.
Welcome to real life.
Yes. And so like Dungeons and Dragons, I typically start as a ranger so I can have an animal companion. Like that listens to me and does what I want to do. But I would probably choosing my companions, thinking about this world. If I was really there, I would not really trust probably anybody. And so I'm probably going to pick a dog and a robot. And those are going to be my companions.
That's it.
They're either programmed to obey, or they're not going to think, man, I can stab him in the back in the middle of the night. I'm probably going a robot.
You know what would be sick?
What's that?
Speaking of a robot, would be a Securitron.
That would be sweet.
If you had that as a companion.
Securitron would be sweet. Even a Mr. Handy. Having a Mr. Handy walk around, like just float around, I'll take any of them. But yes, I would. That's probably the route I would take. as much as I love talking to people, my companions when I'm not there would have to be people that could not betray me if I was living in that world. So I'd pick a robot and a dog. Dog meat. Yeah, there's always a dog in the games too. That was a question I had a
even in the show.
Yep. Well, I was just saying, they're in the show. They're like, why do they keep showing this dog? Because in every game there's a dog. There's a dog that follows you around, and like, oh, okay, that works. All right. So are you going to stay on the road, or are you building a compound? What are you doing?
Ooh, man, the John Rappa compound. That sounds pretty nice.
It does.
I think I would start my own military force.
Okay.
I would try to organize. This is probably not the best solution because I probably die pretty quickly. But if you're gonna live in a world like that, you might as well go all out. So I think I'm gonna start a compound, and then I'm gonna create an army and then mobilize my troops and then start taking section by section.
Okay.
That's my
Okay.
restoring the Crusaders, we will call ourselves.
So again, if I was in that world, I probably would not build a compound because I would not be able to store the resources effectively, and so I would need to constantly be on the move to have supplies. Like I would need to keep going because I would not be able to I only eat like 2 Oreos. That's all I need for right now. They'll last a while. Like I would blow through my supplies. So I would definitely need to.
It's
to
true
keep on the
though.
move.
Yep. That's why in Fallout 4 it's important to make your own farms.
Yes. But in all those games, it's a challenge the first 10, 15 levels, and then you have everything set up, and it just is easy at that point. So that's what I'm moving towards. So I think I'm going to stay on the road. I think I'm going to stay on the road, keep going, exploring, trying to find. Yeah, I'd probably chase down every rumor of paradise, every rumor of a clear zone, every rumor. I probably would. Which reminds me of another great series, Helldivers. If you do audiobooks, check out Helldivers. Is
that the same from the game?
Nope. I got real excited when I heard there was a Helldivers game, thinking it was based on this universe. It is not. This is. I got a whole episode on Helldivers with my brother Rocky, but post-nuclear fallout, humanity has retreated into blimps that they live above these nuclear storm clouds, and there are these elite rangers that will go out of the blimp down to the surface to get supplies, repair parts, whatever else, and then they dive into hell to get these things, and then they retreat back to the blimps. Excellent series. I think there's 12 books now, 13th one coming out soon. It's good stuff. He's a Marine, so I was like, you'll probably enjoy this. And he's like, I did enjoy this. Okay, last question. What are some irradiated creatures we haven't seen yet that would terrify you? So we've got irradiated chickens, or the death claws. Those are the scariest of them. Irradiated bears, or the yogwai. We've got irradiated roaches. We've got irradiated geckos. We've got irradiated dogs that are all just kind of creepy, terrifying looking. Irradiated fish, frog, crab things, the mirrorlurks.
Yeah.
So what do we not have that you go, man, that would terrify me?
Oh, I'm thinking of some sea creatures, but this is a sea and land creature. A snake. I hate snakes. You know that.
I do too. I can't imagine a giant snake slithering around.
Oh my gosh, that would be the most terrifying thing I've ever laid eyes on. A giant snake. I would say also if like you're swimming and there's a shark that's irradiated.
Yeah.
You got like a Jaws looking thing coming out of nowhere.
With legs chasing you. Yeah, that would be. You get to the beach and you think I'm safe now, and you're like, nope, you're not.
Giant shark. God, yeah.
Those are terrifying. I'm thinking like a giant spider, like a huge.
I think
spider.
there are.
Are there giant spiders?
Yeah, in Fallout New Vegas. Oh no, you know what? They're giant ants.
They do have those giant ants. Ants. I'm thinking, so the giant ants, those are like the size of dogs, which those are giant ants. I'm thinking like Lord of the Rings spider creature.
Oh my god.
That's what I'm thinking. Like this, like the size of a school bus spider.
Oh my gosh.
But no, snakes would be terrible. Oh my gosh, that'd be bad. I think I'd kill myself. That would definitely. I assumed you'd say frogs, like a legit irradiated frog.
Oh man, yeah, I was thinking that is scary. I think what scares me about frogs is that like now is that they're like just tiny enough to where they jump, you don't know where they're going. It's just the unpredictable nature of a frog. It scares me to death.
So maybe not giant frogs, but massive swarms of frogs that just like
Gosh.
move around in
Yeah,
colonies
no,
like ants. Maybe I'm trying to give you
Done.
nightmares. Trying to give you nightmares. Okay, so this is not a question that I have here. I thought about it because I asked this question when we did Helldivers. One of the characters in Helldivers collected postcards from the places that they went as they're going. Okay, the world is destroyed. You're on the road, but you have a collection, things that you are looking for in the wasteland. What is John looking for and collecting? You know, like every time you're in a gas station, you're like, I got to get these to add to my collection.
Oh man.
No practicality on size, like that. Like this is anything you're collecting in the wasteland. What is it you're collecting?
And I'm living in a blip.
I'm sorry. No. You can live anywhere. I'm saying, what's the item that you're like, man? If the world had ended and I was collecting things, this is what I'm looking for.
Okay, I feel like this has to be the answer. It's like if I don't say this answer, I'm probably gonna go to hell. But I'd have to say Book of Eli. I got my Bible. I'm looking everywhere for that Bible.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So that's
definitely feel like a terrible Christian because that was definitely not my answer. Like nowhere near there.
it's gotta be, man. It's gotta. That's number one is finding as many Bibles as possible.
Okay.
But like if I'm selfishly John Rappa, man, that's a tough question. Well, one, I feel like I'm just so concerned in that scenario with like food, like resources to make food. You know,
what was the movie where he was trying to find Twinkie? That was Zombieland. Zombieland, where he was
Yes.
like, "Got to find a Twinkie."
The entire plot.
Yep.
And that's what I would be doing.
I assumed you were looking for beat up Mustangs. Like you just had this fleet of like beat up Mustangs outside your compound.
But that would be
that like you would see it and you're like, okay, you know, whoever your right hand guy, Tito, grab that Mustang, take it back to the compound, add to the collection, and it's just like, yes, that would be.
I mean, then then I'm looking for gasoline everywhere, and that's always the challenge. You
Yes.
know, in a situation like that, how much gas do you got left?
Preserved gas that has not reverted to kerosene.
Yes.
You know, that hasn't broken down.
See, that's what the problem with The Walking Dead is.
Yes.
They never run out of gas. They get gas forever.
They get gas forever. They changed it all to biodiesel, man. They've changed all the engines over to run on biodiesel. You know that. Come on, man.
True.
Yeah. Okay. For me, what am I looking for? I am probably, man. What would I? Probably. I like the idea of bobbleheads in Fallout. I've got several Funko Pops up here, so it would
I see it.
I'd probably have bobbleheads, like looking for those things. That would be neat. Or just really. Man, it would just be weird stuff. Like, man, look at this rock. It looks like a face. Like, I'm going to take this home and whatever. It'd be weird stuff. It would be. All right, well, let's change gears out of Fallout. So we talked about JReel Media at the top. I want to know, what is JReel Media? Why does JReel Media exist? And what are some exciting things that are coming in the future for JReel Media?
Absolutely. Well, so JReel Media is an LLC that I just started. It's a multimedia LLC. So, video production, content creation, web design, music production, so multimedia. So, think media and, and multiple different facets of what you can think of. And so my idea is that, creating this for people. I've always, and, I kind of talked about at the beginning of the podcast, I've always been into media. Like, it's just always been a part of me. It's been a part of my family. Originally, like, it was always music production, and I've always just had a fun time just creating that stuff. When I was a kid, it's just like a blast for me. And so when I was a kid, my dad had a music studio in the house, and so like I would always go in there when he was at work and try to make my own beats and make my own songs. And so it was like one of the things was like those were my video games whenever I wasn't playing video games. Like, that was my favorite thing to do in the world. And so I just grew up doing that, continued to do that. And then I got involved in ministry. And so when you're involved in ministry, man, there's so many different areas of, well, one, it's like the military. You're given this one position, this one job, and now you've got to do 15 other jobs that you didn't sign up for, Yeah,
I heard there's an old comedian that's like, oh, you can tell jokes. Can you write too? And it's like, no, I tell jokes. That's what I do.
Yeah.
No, not right now.
No, it's so true. So, and then you get into ministry, and then you're like kind of thrown at having to do, you got to figure out how to do this well too, doing photography and videography and cinematography, and even just creating like music and just like the facets of multimedia, just being heavily involved in ministry.
And so getting involved in ministry, I started getting more involved in other facets of multimedia. And then like it just came back to like I just love it, and I came back to love it even more, and just have a great time doing it. And so a few things of why I started the company. One, it's a hobby for me. It's something that I love. It's something that I believe that I'm good at. And a big reason with ministry in mind particularly was that I have a lot of buddies. I got a lot of friends that do multimedia, but it's just really expensive. And so it's like most small businesses, most nonprofit churches, they want to have a strong social media presence, which is really important. You're getting the gospel out to people, and people always judge a book by its cover without uh, we don't want to say that, but that's the truth. People judge a book by its cover, and so when people go online to a church that might be like a great church and have great relationships and there's great people there, and they preach a truthful word at that congregation. If you're a guest or you're not a Christian and you're just stumbling through social media and you're trying to decide, hey, I kind of want to try out a church, you're probably going to go to the place that has the best looking social media or the best sounding music or whatever it might be. And so a lot of times for smaller congregations that might not have people that know how to create multimedia engagement, they suffer or they're not going to get as many guests as they should just because of that one area, and it just being super expensive to find or hire an entire to find someone to take care of their multimedia creation, and now you got to pay them a salary plus benefits, and a lot of churches don't have that, and so just having so one of the reasons why I started this company was to offer like a very affordable solution for those churches rather than them paying $60,000 a year to hire somebody to do this creation. I'll get you the same creation for like a for a much smaller price, for like a monthly subscription or
Right.
just like whenever the needs are. And so that was the biggest thing, was I enjoy it. I'm good at it, and I wanted to bless specifically churches with that, and then also just small businesses. Like I live in a smaller town, and my entire life I've grown up in High Springs, Alachua area. I've lived in South Florida a few times, but most of my life I've lived up in a smaller town. And what you see throughout the years is that you see these great businesses pop up, and within a year they're shut down.
Right.
And a lot of times it's just their reputation, and they might be a great restaurant, but you'll go on their website, you'll go on their social media, and it looks like they don't care, but they really do. It's just they don't know what they're doing. And
Right.
so for me to be able to come to a small business like that, and to be able to bless them and give them like top of the line content, but for their pocket to where they can afford this service, was really on my heart. So those are like the top reasons why I started this. And then on top of that, just having freedom in ministry, just to be able to have the flexibility and freedom to not rely on a church paycheck eventually, and I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. But I also just see the sense of freedom of, being able to serve and work at a church and give from my heart, but at the same time not have to rely on a church for a paycheck. And right now, I'm working in vocational ministry, and so that's the state of where I'm at. And so I'd love to be in a position to where I can provide for my family, and provide and bless God's church even more through starting a business, and doing something that God created me to do. So that's kind of where that started from.
So I took a look at your website recently, just kind of glance through and look at that, and you had a lot on there about audio production and recording and things like that as well, which is outside of that social media. So I mean, they're definitely tied together. They're definitely connected. So all that being said, someone is interested in some audio project they have, some video project they have.
Yeah.
What are 3 questions they should ask themselves, or a couple questions, maybe not 3, a couple questions they can ask themselves before they come to you to go, okay, is this something I need to pursue? Is this something that JReel can help me with? What are some questions that you go, these are helpful things for you to think through before you come to a consultant for this kind of stuff? What are some things that they should think through?
Well, I think the biggest thing is always like, what's your budget? You know, what does that look like? And I think that's where, I come in and wanting to work with people. And obviously, I know everyone's budget's different. And so I think knowing, okay, like being honest with this is how much I can afford. So giving me that expectation right away rather than wanting a giant, huge production and wanting it for $10. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
knowing what, and obviously, like I said, my goal is to work with those people. So still providing them with that great quality that they're looking for, but just at what they can afford. And for example, I've been doing the music thing for much longer than I've been doing video. And I've had clients come to me in the past that have had low budgets, but they want to send in a demo to Nashville. And so they'll say, well, this is all I can afford, but I want a big production. And so I'll work with them and we'll create, rather than creating a giant, huge production that's going to take, like a long time to create and a lot of energy and resources. On my end, like we end up doing a really solid, well put together acoustic song. And then they give that to Nashville, and that helps them out. And then it takes a song into a different direction, and then you can build upon that. And so I think knowing what your budget is, knowing what you're looking for, being able to articulate, I think that's the second question, being able to articulate what you want. And then 3, thinking about how often you're going to need this. And so a lot of people don't think about this, but when it comes to even like something I've experienced recently with another client is creating a website for them. So I went all the way to Nashville. I got a lot of content filmed for them. I created videos for them. Then I created a website. And so the website was live. It was done. We were done with the gig. And I've been getting emails constantly about, wait, I kind of want to add this to the website. I want to do this. 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 And so thinking through, okay, like if we're going to do a website, is it going to be something that you're going to need some upkeep on? And so then we can work on what that's going to look like, a small subscription that you can afford. And so that's a big thing that I think you got to think through. So your budget, what you are being able to articulate what you need. I think those are the greatest things, the biggest things.
Nice. So where can they find JReel Media? If they're wanting to know more information, where can they look?
Absolutely. So best ways to contact me, I have an email, john@jreelmedia.com. There's no H in that name, so it's just JON@jreelmedia.com. A lot of people get confused. And then the reel is not like real as in REAL. It's real as in like a social media reel. So JON@JREELMedia.com. So that's my email. You can go on my website, jreelmedia.com, and there's some links to reach out to me there. And then on Instagram, same thing. JReel Media is my Instagram. If you click on JReel Media on Instagram, you can give me a DM, and I'll respond to that DM as fast as I can. And then also, I don't mind getting texts or phone calls. So my number is 386-266-8028. And so those are the best ways to contact me. But I'd love to work with anybody. Like I said, I'm open to working with budgets. So shoot them my way if you want to do it personally for something, or you have a company, or you have a church you just want to show to the world. I'm your guy.
And I've got him working on a intro for us, and I'm recording this ahead of time, so it may be ready by the time the next season kicks off. But when
Definitely
you hear that fantastic intro, it was JReel Media that put it together. Well, John,
right.
I appreciate you coming on and talking Fallout with me, and good seeing you again, man.
I appreciate you. Yeah,
right.
It was a fantastic time.
I'll talk to you soon. So before we close out the show, just want to share something with you. So I'm recording this on Sunday after church in the afternoon. And today our pastor was talking about a song we were singing. And it's, I don't need anyone else. I don't need anything else. I just want you, Jesus. Just want you, Jesus. He was saying, that doesn't mean that we don't need each other. That's not what it's trying to say. He was saying that that's really saying that that when we have Jesus, that we are content. That we don't long for something else. That yes, we enjoy the company of each other. But he was saying that when you have Jesus, that you begin to see him everywhere. You see him in the movies you watch, in the songs you listen to, in the books you read. And I was wondering, I was like, okay, well, I'm listening to a book right now, and I'm going, okay, how can I see Jesus in that? Kind of almost as a challenge. Like, I don't think I can see Jesus in this book. And so I started thinking about what I had listen to that morning, because I listened to it on the way to church. And the book is called Day of the Triffids, and it's an older sci-fi book. And the premise is that there are these plants called triffids that are able to move and able to attack humans, but they move really slowly. And so humans are able to chain them up, keep themselves safe, and experiment on them and look at them and test them and all these other things. But there's a meteor shower, a green meteor shower that is so beautiful that everyone goes out to take a look. And the next day, everyone's blind, except for a very small percentage of people that happen to not be looking, didn't look at the meteor shower for one reason or another. Our main character in the book has had eye surgery, so his eyes are covered with these bandages, and so he can't see the meteor shower. And the next day, he takes those bandages off, and he can still see. And so they're trying to figure out how to survive, because now the triffids, these plants, can sneak up on you because you can't hear them coming because they're really slow and you can't see them coming. And so all this stuff's going on. And our main characters are trying to scrounge supplies. And as they're scrounging supplies, they come across a compound filled with people who can see. Very small number who can see. And outside are all these people who can't see. And they're all distraught. All the people outside are distraught. And there's this guy outside that he's making this pleading case for the people there. And he's saying, we're all going to starve. There is food here. We know there's food here, but we can't see it. We can't find it. Why don't you come out here and help us? Like, you can see, lead us to food so that we can see. Lead us to it so that we won't die. Because if you don't do anything, we're going to die. If you don't step in, we're going to die. And the people inside the compound choose not to. And when I was listening to it in the car, I'm thinking, yeah, because if you feed all these people, like, there's nobody producing food now. You know, this is the end of the world kind of stuff. And so you've got to make sure that you're keeping track of your resources. And the main character is saying, you know, they're going to die eventually. And so do we struggle to find ways to keep them alive so that they'll eventually die? And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. And so I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking about, you know, what my pastor's saying, and I'm going, how often, this is such a Jesus juke, and I'm sorry for this, but I was thinking, how often do we do the same thing spiritually? You know, that we have the food, we have the nourishment, we have the truth that gives us life, that keeps us alive. And how often do we hang on to it? Not because we think it's going to run out necessarily, but we think, this is mine. This is mine. You find yours, you find your truth, you find your faith, I have mine. And it really kind of just got me up in my feels, you know, thinking about that. And I was reminded of another pastor who had preached a message from Numbers 21. And I'm going to read that passage to you. And it's when Moses and the Israelites are in the wilderness. And God has just done something amazing for them, as he typically does. And then the very next passage is the Israelites complaining. And so this is chapter 21, verse 4. This is in the Holman Christian Standard Bible, HCSB. It says, "Then they set out from Mount Hor by the way of the Red Sea to bypass the land of Edom, but the people became impatient because of the journey. The people spoke against God and Moses. 'Why have you led us up from Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread or water, and we detest this wretched food.' Then the Lord sent poisonous snakes among the people, and they bit them so that many Israelites died. The people then came to Moses and said, 'We have sinned by speaking against the Lord and against you. Intercede with the Lord so that he will take the snakes away from us.' And Moses interceded for the people. Then the Lord said to Moses, 'Make a snake image and mount it on a pole. When anyone who is bitten looks at it, he will recover.' So Moses made a bronze snake and mounted it on a pole. Whenever someone was bitten and he looked at the bronze snake, he recovered." Now, I shared this because the pastor was sharing about this passage, and he was saying, if you knew that you were going to die, but if you could look on something, see, and be given life, you know, what would you do to get to it? You would fight to get there. And he was talking about grabbing his children and grabbing his wife's hand and running towards this bronze snake, wanting to be healed, wanting to be saved. And then once they were fine, grabbing others and bringing them, like, please look, because life is here, freedom is here, hope is here. And so I thought about that, you know, in this book, Day of the Triffids, and how they could have fed them. They could have done those things and kept them alive, at least for a period of time, done what was right. And what we should do as Christians, that we should be the ones that we as Christians should be the ones that are taking the hope and the faith that we have and running and grabbing people and saying, look, here it is. Look here. See this. This is so good. This is spiritual food to eat. And we don't. But I was encouraged today to remember that and to try and find ways and opportunities to share that with others. Not to let them starve, but to give them good spiritual food for them to eat. So I encourage you to do the same. Well, I appreciate you taking some time, spending some time with me, and listening to me talk with John Rappert from JReel Media, and check them out for anything that you've got going on that you need support with. Do that. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, which I'm fairly certain is a conversation with one of my favorite guests, Todd Turner, when we talk about DC's comic storyline Identity Crisis. It's a good one. We recorded that one over the summer and talked a little bit about a Comic-Con that we went to. And if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. I'll read those on the show, so look forward to seeing those. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars and leave a review. That'd be excellent. If you head over to nextgennerd.com, you can also share any episode there to your social media. And again, if you share any of this, if I get word, you want to share something on the show, I would love to share it here. Love to share comments from what's going on in your neck of the woods, or recommendations that you have, thoughts that you have. I'd love to share those with the rest of the audience. So share something, and I'll share it on the show. Links to so much more are in the show notes and are available in your podcast app at the bottom at the YouTube video or at nextgennerd.com. If you want even more Next Gen Nerd, you can find me on Instagram at nextgen_nerd or on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, at nextgen_nerd as well. And that's it for this episode. Until next time.
Peace out, Seacrest.